Will everyone please place their hands together in Dasho and repeat the Nembutsu with me. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda, Namanda, Namanda. Well, good morning, everyone. I am sorry. Make sure that our using the proper microphone. I would first like to once again thank and congratulate the Lotus class of our Tacoma Buddhist Temple for doing such a wonderful job and a beautiful demonstration of officiating the Bodhi Day service last weekend. So can we all just take a moment and thank the Lotus class? Thank you very much. You all did so wonderfully and performed the service very nicely, and I could clearly see that this temple, your friendship with each other, and your care for the Sangha is very, very evident. I would like to talk a little bit today about one of the teachings of Shakyamuni Buddha, since we're still kind of in that Bodhi Day mindset. You know, of course, one of the biggest teachings of the Buddha was the idea of non-attachment, right? The idea of not being attached to things. That being said, I think this concept is often misunderstood. So for Dharma School students, there's probably, you probably have a console, like a video game source that you enjoy or that you always play on. For some of the younger folks, you probably have a toy that means a lot to you. When I was very young, when I was like growing up, I had a stuffed puppy animal. Like I had a stuffed puppy. I would sleep with the puppy. I would always, take it around with me when I was a little kid. And it meant a lot to me. I was very attached to this puppy, right? And so this idea of attachment, right, non-attachment, right, what is often misunderstood about this idea of non-attachment is that we as Buddhists would say, oh, you shouldn't be attached to things, right? You should just let things go or not be so attached to things, right? This is actually a misunderstanding. The idea of non-attachment, and see if you can stay with me, Dharma School students, the idea of non-attachment is understanding that things will change. This doesn't mean that it will always be easy when things change. When things sometimes break, right? When a toy breaks or when something happens, right? It can be very hard for us, okay? And then Buddhism doesn't just say or is very cold and says, well, that's not attachment, you shouldn't be attached. Buddhism actually sits with you. Shakyamuni Buddha sits with you and says, let's talk about this, right? Let's actually take some time to understand these feelings, okay? And then at the very end of it comes, I understand that things always change. And this is a reality that things always will change. As Dharma School students, and especially as adults, when the holiday season comes, right, we see countless ads on television, right? We see countless ads on television. We see things happen. We see things being advertised, telling us what we want. You want this new cell phone. You want this new game console. The PlayStation 5 is out, right? And so you want this new thing. So first you get it in your mind to say, this is what I want. This is the thing that I want. And so you kind of hope that when you get a present, right, that one of those presents will be the thing that you want. And then sometimes when you open up the present, it's socks or shoes or, well, actually, people want shoes, right? But, it's something that you were not expecting. And then what ends up happening, there's probably a little bit of you that's probably disappointed. I wanted this thing, not this thing. Actually, these days, frankly, just for the record, I appreciate socks because I'm noticing now that some of them are getting holes in the bottom. So I actually appreciate socks now. But as younger Dharma School students, you may not appreciate socks. Socks are things that you just put on your feet every day. But the Buddha understands our attachments. So Shakyamuni Buddha understood that we as people, as students, as adults, we all want things. We all become, and then actually, then here's a big thing. When we do get the thing that we want, right, we are initially so happy. We are filled with glee. We want to play with it constantly, right? We want to make sure that, it's probably kept in well condition. For Dharma School students, it's probably when you get the toy that you want or the console that you want, you'll probably spend time cleaning it, doing the air thing that you squirt in there. For adults, and speaking from personal experience, it's when I got a new car. I was making sure that everything was clean. I actually got the vacuum cleaner and I made sure I vacuumed on the inside. We all experience this when we get the things that we want. But when we do get things that we want, after a long, long while, right, does our appreciation for that thing kind of go down a little bit? Doesn't that appreciation for the thing that we, coveted, the thing that we wanted so hardly, doesn't that go down a little bit? Especially for Dharma School students, or when we see the next generation of whatever the console is, right? I have a PlayStation 4. I personally don't, but some of you may have a PlayStation 4. Well, there's a PlayStation 5 now. And I was actually, just for adults, I was talking with Reverend Cindy the other day, and she was kind of looking at, look at the new 2023 RAV4. The models are already out. Oh, wow, the screen is a little bit bigger, right? And I had to go, now, it's like we have a perfectly wonderful 2022 RAV4, right? And already we're looking at the future. So Shakyamuni Buddha really understands what goes on with our minds, how we want things, right? And especially during the holiday season, we can see how hard some of these companies and other sources advertise to us and say, this is the thing that you want. You want this thing and then not only do you want this thing, we're going to give you a great deal that you cannot pass up. But this deal is only going to last for so long, and then, the deal will be gone. Oh, and then you won't get that thing. So here's actually, and this was recommended to me by our wonderful superintendent, June Akita, who is actually at Seattle Betsuine today helping them to make gingerbread houses. But one of her assignments to the Dharma School students, and maybe this should be for the parents too, and for myself, is clean your rooms. Clean your rooms, right? The end of the year cleaning session. Clean your rooms. Okay, everyone be honest with me. This is for Dharma School and parents and people alike. How many of you think that your room currently is a little bit messy and could be tidied up a little bit? Okay, I appreciate, so it doesn't want to read. Okay, right? We've always heard the parents say, clean your room. Now, for the Dharma School students, when you clean your room, you notice it's filled with stuff. So here's your assignment, Dharma School students. When you clean your rooms, when your parents tell you to, of course, go through the things that you have. Take some time. Take a look at each and every one of those things. Where did it come from? Who gave it to you? Why did you get it? When did you get it? Ask all of these questions. And then this is the thing that I think is most often, associated with this idea of non-attachment. Okay, we become attached to things as they currently are, but as we grow up and as we change and grow older, the value of those things can sometimes go down. Maybe some of them that can go up if you have old comic books that are in mint condition. But either way, you take a look at these things and understand the time and place that they were given to you. Understand why they were given to you. And most importantly, who gave them to you. I think this is more important than the thing itself sometimes. This is what Shakyamuni Buddha, I think, was teaching us when he taught the concept of non-attachment. It's not to say that you should just throw your things away and just say, oh yeah, you should just get rid of all your stuff, right? Get rid of your Nintendo DS or Switch, right? Get rid of all those things. Shakyamuni Buddha was not saying that. Shakyamuni Buddha was saying, more importantly, understand where this thing came from. Who gave it to you? That's the more important thing than the thing itself. So with this in mind, Dharma School students, I hope that we are all able to enter into this holiday season with this renewed sense of gratitude for the things that we get. We become attached to these things for a time, but then we can learn to let them go. But more importantly, realize why you receive these things in the first place. Why do we have these attachments? We have these attachments because we are filled with the three poisons at times. We want things, we don't get what we want, we get upset, and then we can't see that sometimes, it's not in our circumstance to receive these things. But if you do get something that we want, or if we do get something that we really enjoy, more important than the thing itself, ask yourself who gave it to you, why it was given to you, when it was given to you. These are all important parts, in my personal opinion, of Shakyamuni Buddha's teaching of non-attachment, right? See beyond the thing itself and see the gesture. So with this in mind, I sincerely hope that everyone here has a wonderful holiday. This is the last Dharma School service before the year's end. So I wish the Dharma School students well, to have fun holidays, to spend time with family and friends. But of course, try to be safe as well, as the flu cases are going up and people are starting to get sick. I'm very glad, and we are all still choosing to wear masks indoors. I think we are able to still celebrate the holidays with friends and family, but I think we can also do it safely as well. So with this in mind, Dharma School students, I wish you all a very, very happy holidays, a very happy new year, and I certainly look forward to seeing you all in the year of 2023. Will you please join me in Gassho? Repeat the Nembutsu with me. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Nam mandats, nam mandats, nam mandats. You all please join me in Gassho. Nam mandats, nam mandats, nam. Reflecting within myself, I see that in the various teachings of the path of sages, practice and enlightenment died out long ago, and that the true essence of the Pure Land Way is the path to realization, now vital and flourishing. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namandats, namandats, namandats. Good morning again, everyone. We are experiencing some interesting weather. I think for me, as a California native, I am still getting used to the fickle weather of the Northwest. We are experiencing some fog right now, and then last week was rain and some snow. But according to the meteorologist, this coming week will be lots of sunshine, so we should enjoy it while we can. I would also like to once again echo my wonderful appreciation, or my heartfelt appreciation, to the wonderful Lotus class for their wonderful job and their beautiful officiating of the Bodhi Day service. But as I was thinking about Bodhi Day and the enlightenment of Shakyamuni Buddha, I realized that his story and Shinran's shonin story, and a lot of our story as well, has a lot of parallels to it. What I see in the story of Shakyamuni Buddha's enlightenment, or Prince Siddhartha's enlightenment, is a story of growth, a story of the extremes not being the thing to do, and experimentation, trial, and error. So for a little refresher, we'll all remember that Prince Siddhartha grew up in a life of luxury. Prince Siddhartha was a prince of a brilliant king, Suddhodana, and probably got everything that he ever wanted, right? If all he had to do was ask his father, and that wish was granted. So you grow up in a life of luxury. But he did not experience happiness or fulfillment in that life. He then went to the extreme opposite and tried to do very hard, austere practices where legend says that he only ate 1 grain of rice per day and only drank the drops of the morning dew. As there are some kind of disturbing images of a statue of Prince Siddhartha when he's doing this, where you can see he's like skin and bone, emaciated. And he did not find fulfillment or enlightenment on this path either. For him, the path was somewhere in the middle. So in the Prince Siddhartha's story, we don't see this person who gets everything perfectly the first try. I think trial and error is a large part of our lives. And it was the same way with Prince Siddhartha. Prince Siddhartha tried living one way. It didn't work. He tried practicing another way. It didn't work. It took him realizing that, and many days of meditation, that it's the middle way that works. And the same thing is true with Shinran Shonin. For those of you who do not know, Shinran Shonin was also born into somewhat of a privileged livelihood. He was part royalty, actually. But then he actually entered into the Tendai priesthood, where he underwent 20 years of hard training. 20 years of hard training. He probably, there's a letter written by Eshini, his wife, who said that he was a doso, or a monk inside the hall. And for those of you who do not know, this particular monk had to go inside this Buddha hall, where Amida Buddha statue is in the middle, and you had to circumambulate around it for 90 days without rest, really. You're allowed to eat, you're not really allowed to sleep, you can rest a little bit, but the idea is to keep going for 90 days. Shinran Shonin endured 20 years of hard practice, and even after that time, he awoke to himself and said, I am no closer to achieving the enlightenment that I was seeking than when I started. It wasn't until he left the mountain and entombed himself, in a sense, at Rokakudo. And by the way, you can visit these sites. You can visit sites like Endyakuji, where Shinran trained, and Rokakudo Temple. You can visit all of these sites. Shinran went to this site and did a 100-day retreat. And it was there that in a dream, where Prince Shotoku, or Avalokiteshvara, depending on which version of the story you listen to, appears to Shinran and encourages him to find his true teacher. And that true teacher he found in Honen Shonin, who gave him who helped to teach him the way of the Pure Land path. And this is the reason why I have the quote here today. Shinran doesn't just write things, or did not just write things, on a whim. He didn't think, this just doesn't work for me, so therefore, this. But in his many practices of trial and error, was able to encounter his true teacher of Honen Shonin to teach him the Pure Land way. And I think this also goes back to Shakyamuni Buddha as well. For Shakyamuni Buddha did not teach the same thing to everyone either. Back to Shakyamuni Buddha was usually asked a question during his lectures, and he would answer them. Depending on the time, the place, and most importantly, who was asking him the question and the question that was asked, Shakyamuni Buddha would give the answer that was right for that person. For our teachings, Shakyamuni Buddha realized that as a vessel, or as he was physically, he would not be around forever. As we all know, Shakyamuni Buddha achieved enlightenment under the Bodhi tree, but even then, that did not stop the natural process of aging and death. This made him realize that soon he will not physically be here anymore. He will no longer be able to directly teach the Dharma to his disciples. So he entrusted his disciples with the teachings and said, hold on to these teachings and do your best to share them with everyone else. But this is where Buddhism can kind of get confused sometimes, because depending on which sutra you read, depending on which teaching you have an affinity to, you will definitely see some different things. Sometimes you might even see sutras that contradict each other. This is okay. In Buddhism, in our sect of Jodo Shinshu Buddhism, we revere the 3 Pure Land Sutras. For me, these sutras reflect the true nature of the changing times and how we as humans, while we may become more advanced in terms of technology, medical science, and and all around how long that we live, our human condition still remains the same. We still have wants and desires. We still have greed, anger, and ignorance within all of us. And yet, Shakyamuni Buddha realized that there would become a time when he would no longer be here. So what could he do? He gave us a teaching that gave us hope, that made us still realize that even though he is no longer with us physically, the Dharma will still live on in Namo Amida Butsu, when we take refuge in the Buddha of infinite light and life. This is because the Dharma is, in a sense, I don't want to say eternal, but always working for our benefit, always working to help us awaken to the truth. And this is something that Shinran could clearly see in his master Honin as well. Master Honin taught Shinran that while you may become accomplished in physical activity or austere practices, you might memorize all of the sutras, but none of that matters unless your heart really lies in entrusting to the Buddha of infinite light and life. All of that you do, accomplishments that you do, it's not that they're not important, but they are also self-power, realizing the true nature of interdependence once again. This is why I believe that the teachings of Shakyamuni Buddha and Shinran go hand in hand. Many people and scholars alike may actually claim that the original, and I put that in quotation marks, the original teachings of Shakyamuni Buddha are heavily different than that of Shinran Shonin. But however, I disagree. What Shinran says in this passage is that he recognizes that we are far from this time. And mind you, Shinran was born 850 years ago, and he's still acknowledging the great distance of time between him and Shakyamuni Buddha, realizing that for him, the Pure Land path is the way. But yet for us as well, I think that coming back to us in the present time, I think we also have our own religious process that we have to go through. Some of us have come to the temple from other religious traditions. This is fine. This is wonderful. We welcome all people who are exploring their spirituality. But even for us who were born into the tradition, probably take for granted the temple, the rituals that we do, and saying Namo Amida Butsu again and again and again, most likely have our own spiritual path to go through as well. We have our own exploration that we need to do. We need to examine the teachings as they are given to us and think really deeply within ourselves if this teaching does speak to us. This isn't to say that I think that all of us should probably cut Jodo Shinshu down to size necessarily, but really, in a sense, take some time to read the translations of the sutras. Go ahead and ask our Dharma friends about it, our Dharma teachers about it, and heavily examine if this teaching speaks to you. I think it's a common misconception that if you grew up at the temple, you're automatically an expert and you know everything that there is to know about Jodo Shinshu. I think this is far from the case. Other people have come to the temple with great knowledge of Jodo Shinshu already. And they've heavily explored Shinran's teachings and say, this really speaks to me. Others are total beginners, and it is my job to essentially present a Dharma talk that speaks to all of you. This is something that Shakyamuni Buddha did constantly. And I am no Shakyamuni Buddha. I am no enlightened being. Shinran Shonin, a great venerable teacher, gave this teaching, helped give this teaching to all of us. But I am not Shinran Shonin. But in a sense, that doesn't matter. That is okay. None of us are Shinran Shonin, and none of us are Shakyamuni Buddha. All of us can still appreciate and help share the teachings as they come to us. Things that speak out to us are very important. But most importantly, I think, are the parallels that we see in all of our religious path. Taking our time to really examine the teachings and to say Namo Amida Butsu in order to grow our appreciation for it, I think is something that should continue. So with this in mind, I want to wish all of you happy holidays, and please stay safe as we continue to ride through this flu season and sickness. But most importantly, take some time to listen to the teachings. Take some time to really reflect and read. While I gave the Dharma School students the homework assignment of cleaning their rooms, I actually asked a homework assignment from all of you to take a look at a service book and see a teaching that really speaks to you. This is one of the best forms of appreciation, I think, that we can show Shakyamuni Buddha and our founder, Shinran Shonin. But with this in mind, let us all remember that we are all interconnected with one another, and that all of us are embraced by the warm, loving compassion of Amida Buddha's light and life. So with that in mind, will you all please join me in Gassho? Reflecting within myself, I see that in the various teachings of the path of sages, practice and enlightenment died out long ago, and that the true essence of the Pure Land Way is the path to realization, now vital and flourishing. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namandat, Namandat.